Welcome back to the Grieving Sisters. I'm Jessica.
I'm Elizabeth. Thank you
And
for joining us.
I know. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, we have a very special guest, little Nat. That's a I- little Nat.
Little Nat is crazy.
Yeah, I know. Well, and that's how kind of how I know her. And then also I know Liz's sister as little Nat too, because they were,
Yeah.
you guys are you were the little,
The little sisters.
little chamax.
Yeah.
Like you guys were always in our business and stuff. So we wanted to invite Nat to come to the show and just kind of just talk about some things. We're trying to keep kind of on brand a little and stay on niche and talk about sibling loss. And obviously we just had Jennifer on and we talked about both of her brothers passing away. And obviously, now when people see you, they're going to see, they're going to know that we're talking about Xavier. And, I went to high school with Xavier. We both went to high school with Xavier. And then he transferred out. I think he transferred out. I'm not sure.
No, I think he signed himself out like either junior or senior year.
Yeah. And then, so I just wanted to kind of invite you on and, kind of just, we can talk about it, just have this conversation about grief and, losing our siblings and things like that. But, before we jump in, obviously we never have this boombox here. So, we're going to start off with something really light and really jump into it. So Xavier used to always be by the auditorium with this boombox, and it's not even my boombox. This is from the studio. So when we first came here to tour the studio, I saw the boombox and immediately I thought of Xavier. I was like, yo, that's X's box.
Yeah.
Like, this is his, like, it was like more and more confirmation that we really needed to start this community. And when I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, if we do, and when we do this episode with Nat, I need to have this. Like, this needs to be here. But I want you to tell the story about it.
It is like so nostalgic, even just seeing it, because anybody who knows him knows there was 3 things he loved, and it definitely was the boombox. There was also a Walkman that people don't know about that I'm sure my dad still has.
Aww.
And he was real big into like rapping. And at one point he went through a phase with breakdancing, and that's where the boombox really became big.
Yep. And I
Yeah,
never talked to him about the breakdancing, and they used to always do breakdancing by the auditorium. We used to get in so much trouble.
Actually, on my Instagram, actually, I don't know if you guys remember a Jenny.
Yeah, that's my best friend. She sent you a video of it.
Sent me the video of him actually breakdancing in the hallway right before one of the teachers are walking up, and he kind of just like got up and walked away. Like,
I didn't know anything.
Yeah,
That's when kids respect the teachers.
yeah,
Just
for
saying.
sure.
Oh, but you were saying that you guys were fighting over the boombox.
Oh my gosh! So the boombox was like, do not touch. Especially back then. Do you remember recording over the tapes? And
Yeah,
that's what he would
breaking the
do.
little piece
And
out.
he just
Like
had
tissue
like,
and tape.
yeah. So it was the boombox and the tapes. You weren't allowed to touch his boombox. It went everywhere with him. And even if you slightly moved it from one side of his dresser to the other, he'd be like, "Who was touching my boombox? Who was touching my radio?"
Yeah.
It was big. It was a constant fight for sure. Because I wanted the radio too. We only had one.
Right. Well,
Right.
That's what we could afford, right?
Yeah,
At
yeah.
time. True story. And then, so just tell, I guess you can kind of let the audience know, obviously, we know you, we know the story. Obviously friends of Xavier know the story. You can go ahead, just take the floor.
Yeah. So I don't think a lot of people knew, but back then it wasn't really talked about the way it's talked about now. But him passing had a lot to do with mental health issues.
Mhm.
And it started off real young, him getting into fights and whatever. And my parents were just like, oh my gosh, constantly at the high school,
Mm.
probably like at least once or twice a month. But there were definitely no signs, he was in the streets at this point once he signed himself out of school. But mental health was a big thing. He was, I don't know I think it's called Bellevue. I think it was like a psych ward in New York.
Yes.
So that's where he spent some of his time. And then, things progressively got worse. And then I got like the worst phone call for a 16-year-old. I wasn't part of the conversation, but I knew something was up just by, my mom is a super Christian lady, doesn't cuss. And I just remember hearing my brother's name and they said something. And then that's when we found out that he had committed suicide.
Yeah.
And it was just it was tough. I mean, especially being 16, you don't know how to process any of it.
Right.
And it you know how they talk about like that sibling intuition? I think I was on, Instant Messenger, AOL,
Right. Right.
asking
Right.
people if they had seen my brother. Like I just
Mhm.
had this haven't spoken to him in 2 days. Just has anybody seen him? And
And
I
it was
think it
right around
was
Thanksgiving.
I think actually that year that it happened, it might have been either the day of Thanksgiving or the day
After. It
after.
was, yeah, that's was something that a lot of the public, we didn't know that. That wasn't something, we just knew he passed and we were just kind of like, it rocked us, right? Because it was like probably the first person in our class who passed.
Mhm. Mm.
It was the first person, right? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't like I don't think it started to hit home until friends started to find out because then, I was getting those constant phone calls at the house on the house phone, like,
Right.
people just being like, hey, Nat, like, is this true? Tell me it's not true. And it was so hard to keep like my composure and just be like, yeah, it's true. And like, yeah, it was just it hit hard. At 16, you don't understand your own emotions at that point,
Right.
but I knew something I knew something was up, and I actually didn't find out till the day after.
Wow.
My parents confirmed, and it wasn't even my parents who told me. My parents didn't have they never came back. We were actually at an uncle's house and we stayed overnight. And the next morning it was my uncle who sat me and my sisters down. And I remember my one little sister to this day, she just started bawling.
Mm.
And I just had zero emotion, just like, you're lying to me.
Right.
Right.
You were in
And
shock.
that was, yeah, I think I was in shock, but I was also angry
Mhm.
because one of the first things that was said to me the night prior was, like, oh no, he's okay, everything's fine.
Mm.
Um, but I think that's because the conversation was limited, so people really didn't know what was happening.
Right.
And then to get that shocking news the next day, I was I was angry. I was angry because I was lied to.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Could definitely see that. And I can tell like it just I mean, right? It was again right around Thanksgiving. So it's like, oh my God, it's like
Mhm.
family time. This is like when time everyone's supposed to be together. It's
Mhm.
usually well, right. Let me not say everything is all peachy keen, right? Like let's
Right,
not,
right, right,
we all you show me a perfect family, I'll show you every hole. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's no perfect family, but it's usually the time that people families are getting together. So
mhm.
that's
So
just
usually that facade during the
yes.
holidays is everyone puts that aside. But for
Hmm.
us, it was kind of like, my mom at the time was living in Dominican Republic.
Oh, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, she wasn't even in the States. So obviously, and actually I was actually supposed to be in New York for that holiday and I chose to stay in Jersey.
Oh,
And apparently my brother actually was last seen at my family's house in
New
in New
Jersey.
York.
in
Oh,
New
in New York.
York.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. My goodness. Yeah. And
Mm.
then, just even reading some stuff, they're saying like that's the second leading suicide is the second leading cause of death in the States. I don't know if it's the world, but I went off of, NAMI and I went off of and that's something, if you are suffering or having those thoughts, like call the crisis line, the
Mhm.
998 or 988 number,
Right.
if you are going through it and things like that. Um,
We didn't have that back then though.
no.
Or at least the knowledge of it. It
Yeah.
was like I said earlier, like mental health back then, a lot of families really covered that up and chalked it up to like, oh, if it was a boy, it was, oh, he's a boy, he's hyper, or
Right.
Mhm.
they're a teenager. It's what teenagers do. But once it came down to like getting actual medical attention,
Right.
even my parents were buying books because it was something that was so unheard of or unspoken, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, especially like you said, like men's mental health, right? It's just like there's just not enough support, especially, at that time as well.
Yeah.
Were you able to learn more about the struggles that your brother was going through prior to his death?
So there were little things that I had noticed. I mean, imagine going from being the little sister to all of a sudden feeling like you're the big sister.
Right.
Mhm.
And the constant fights, and then the one thing that didn't help was the drug use. That definitely um I think exacerbated some of his mental health issues. But being so young, I didn't understand it. Like, I knew what was happening because I was being told, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know what to like, there was no research really. Like, computers weren't huge back then.
Nope.
And when they were big, I feel like information on the computer was so limited. So I just went off of what I saw. So there were times, here I was 16, 15 and 16, and I would stay in the basement with my brother and talk to him till 5 in the morning, knowing I had to be up at 5:30 for school. But it was to keep him from, talking to himself, or just to keep him home longer. So those were little things within my realm that I was able to do without really knowing what to do, essentially.
Right. Wow.
hmm
And then a couple of years later, then your mom passed.
So that was actually, 16, so about 5. Oh gosh, no, that was a lot longer.
No, it's a lot
So my
longer.
brother, yeah, so my brother I was 16 when he passed, and then my mom passed away when I was 24.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like almost 10 years later.
10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
You feel like it was, I mean, because, right, although it's still immediate family, obviously a mom, it's much different than a brother, but
Oh, it's totally different. And I think a lot of people, you know, it's like, oh, well, you experienced death so close to home before. Like,
right.
it doesn't make it easier because everyone expects their parents to go before them. Like, that's just, it's like
nature.
it's this unwritten thing where it's like, oh, my parents are going to go before me. But at the same time, my mom only came back from Dominican Republic and came back to live in the States after my brother passed.
Mm.
So I had that time with her because I moved from Jersey to PA. And but it was like almost instantly I got pregnant with my oldest, and pretty much after I had my oldest, my mom was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are some
So
things
and
that you did to help you throughout your grief, like with Xavier, and then obviously with your mom? Like, obviously 16, you're a kid, 23, 24, you're an adult, but
Yeah, grief looks different when you're like early adolescent than when you're an adult, you
Yeah.
know?
yeah, so like the weight of loss, I feel like is totally different. So going through loss so close to home at 16 and going through it again at 24, there's definitely a change in your grieving process. But I feel like in both scenarios, like the weight of the loss was definitely quadrupled by milestones. Like, you have the memories, your future plans. Everything just feels so elusive at that point when you're going through it. So at 16, I was just angry, and I was angry for a long time.
Mm.
And with my mom, I wasn't angry. It was kind of like, okay, it was like a build up process because we knew it was happening, but dealing with the grieving process was still hard just because of my situation. I was 9 months pregnant when my mom passed. So, and once again, it was like a milestone. 3 weeks later, I gave birth to my youngest son, and it was like, okay, how do you deal with this milestone and this memory? But it's I was able to, I guess, do it differently because I had those thoughts and memories with my mom that I was like, okay, if she were here, she'd want me to be happy, or I just felt like, okay, I have to keep pushing because my mom would want me to do so. Whereas at 16, that's not even a thought process. Your grieving is totally different.
Yeah, you're just trying to get through life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what do you feel, obviously, what are some things that you did to take care of yourself? Like, what was some like self-care for while you were grieving?
So that's actually an ironic question, only because it wasn't until years later that I realized this. But after my brother had passed, I was really big in writing. I wrote everything down. My parents would tell you, like, I was antisocial. I wouldn't come downstairs when family would come over. But the only thing, me not knowing, that made me feel better is I would constantly write in my book. And I got that from Javi.
Yeah.
We call him Javi.
Yes.
So he would always write in his book, but he was always writing like rhymes and raps. But for me, I was writing down my emotions. I was writing down things that I wanted to tell him or wanted to tell him about. And honestly, it has stuck with me to this day. I probably have 4 journals in this house that every time I have a thought that I'm like, oh, I need to write this down, or I feel some type of way, it's writing a letter to them essentially. And it just feels like, I know they're not there to answer, but it's like a weight is lifted because I feel like I said what I had to say on paper, and
It's like a
it's
release.
there to revert back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, journaling is so powerful, and even just write like you're saying, like writing things out, getting the feelings out,
Mhm.
Like it's interesting, sometimes things happen and I'll go to the cemetery and I'll tell my sister,
Yeah.
and it's like it's the same thing. It's like you're writing a letter to them, you're letting him
Yeah.
know what's going on. Um
And it wasn't until years later that I even discovered, like, you know what? Like, I've been coping with it this whole time in that way without realizing it.
Right. Survival. Like
yeah,
kind of
I
like a,
think that's
Mhm.
great advice. I think just getting it out, even if it's just your thoughts going through your head, sometimes they race a little fast. And when you have
Mhm.
to write something down, you're slowly thinking and putting it to paper. Like you can write slower than you can think.
yeah.
So it
Yeah.
helps you regulate your mood a little bit and slow down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I think it was something that you wanted to ask, right, Liz? There was something that you wanted to ask. Okay. Um, I know, like, how do you celebrate or what do you do for like the anniversaries or their birthdays and things like that? Like, is there, do you even think about it? Is it, like Jen kind of said, like the day before, it's like that anticipation of it, like,
Mhm. It's so it used to be like a big thing for me. Like I would not go to work or, it was a day that I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this or, my biggest thing, after Javi passed, it was easy because I lived in Jersey. So obviously I would go to the mausoleum and just, sit there and talk to him or whatever. But as you get older, I feel like your grieving process completely changes and the way you want to celebrate them changes. Obviously now we have social media.
mm,
And my biggest thing from day one, I always said, I will never let people forget that you existed. Like, and that's my biggest thing. I throw a post on there and I used to be sad every year that I would post it. But now it's like, I look at it from a different light and I'm like, man, if he was here, like, he'd be happy to see this. Or, it's just, honestly, just, I do things, I will put on some Bone Thugs and Harmony and,
always both
like,
thugs. But both thugs
that
was
was his
played at
favorite
his
song.
funeral.
But I
Yeah.
that's what we've been seeing. I mean, again, this podcast was born out of, two grieving
Sibling,
sisters.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, even though we cover all kinds of grief, it's really important for us to make sure that we build a community for sibling grief. And what we're seeing is like a common thread of what you just said, of like
Mhm.
keeping their memory alive, celebrating them, talking about things that they love, like your face lighting up when you see the boom box, talking about those
Yeah.
memories, even if they're like, oh my God, we used to piss each other off, you know what I mean? Or things like
Yeah.
it's funny how like the things that we used to complain about and things that like, would kind of tick us off. Now we're like, oh my God,
Mhm.
they were so crazy,
Yeah, yeah.
so I think that that's really important. That we're seeing that,
Yeah.
with all the grieving siblings is
Mhm.
like keeping their life and social media. This is one of the tools of social media that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like you're able to throw a post on there and say, oh my God, look at this amazing. Like I found a picture of like I had climbed into the stroller with my sister and like I got behind her and we were like in the
Mhm.
stroller and it's like little things like that. It's so funny. It's
Yeah.
so nice. And it's it's like, oh my God, was I obsessed with my sister? And everyone's like, oh my God, climbing in the stroller with her, so it's like those type of things. It does bring joy to you and it does bring joy to others. And it's really nice to see them still live on in that.
And I think the beautiful aspect about that when it comes to social media, because you'll see a lot of posts, people are like, oh, social media is terrible. But I will say every time I post something about my mom or my brother, it's the response that I get back that's like, oh,
It's
like
something
they
heartwarming.
remember.
Yeah.
And that's a feel good feeling because, like I said, from day one, I was like, nobody's ever going to forget. Like, your memory will live on. And
Right.
there's even been times where people post out of nowhere. It's not even his anniversary. It was just someone will say, like, oh, hey, like, I thought about this and it reminded me of your brother. And it's a feel good feeling to know that I'm not the only one doing it either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he, even with X, like just certain, like just certain things that he would say and certain things he would do. I mean, he was so funny. And again, right, I hate using was, right? Like it really bothers me. But,
Mhm.
just a little FYI, I think Jen has more videos and pictures, but it's Ryan
Oh,
that has it. It's not Jen,
oh,
it's her brother.
Okay.
Just an FYI. I mean, she's
Okay.
gonna
I'm
kill
like,
me.
okay.
She's gonna kill me. She's like, yes, you threw me under the bus. I would be like, well, she told me that that's how she got those videos from Ryan, because
Right.
Ryan, obviously he does all the video, like cinematography and all this other stuff, Jen's older brother. So that's why he had those videos of like even the breakdancing, right? Because we didn't have that.
No. And you know what's crazy about that video? It was just randomly sent to me. And I can't even explain to you like the emotion that I got. Like, it wasn't like I was sad, but there's a part of the video where I slow it down and you see him turn around and this little, like, it's something about his smile. Like, it just, I was like, like, yes, like that was the face, the smile, the happy kid I remember when I was growing up. So I think that part, it wasn't even the breakdancing, because honestly, I couldn't stand the breakdancing. I mean, he would turn the whole living room into a dance floor, but it was the smile at the end, like watching him do what he enjoyed. And I was
Because
like,
he also got away with it. Right.
oh, that's too. I'm like,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
it was definitely a feel good feeling. It was.
Yeah. Cause I remember, so it was funny. So I already had Nat, I think probably as soon as like Facebook started, because I think it was like, it went to MySpace, then to Facebook. So then I had told Jen, I was like, Jen, I have Xavier's sister on my, so I guess like, whatever, I think she was pregnant at the time with her youngest daughter. And it was just like, kind of like, not that she dismissed me, but whatever, she got caught up. And then when I think you had requested her on Instagram, she was just like, oh, is that Xavier? I said, yeah, she's all grown up. And she's like G.I. Jane up in here. Like, she's like such a badassery at this point. Like, do you feel like that also kind of pushed you to like do military?
So, you know what? This is something I've never told anyone. And it's
Oh, I love
crazy
those.
that you're asking this question. So, my brother growing up wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And my parents have a video of me when I was like 14 or 15. And I'm like, I want to be in the Navy. But of course, monkey see, monkey do. Once I hit 18, I was like, I'm going to join the military, but I'm not into the Navy. I'm scared of the water. Nope, I need to be on land. And that's what got me started with wanting to go to the military. But I actually had gotten denied medically at 18. And I think I was at a barbecue one day and we were talking about all the what ifs, and my brother came up and I was like, oh, he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, I tried to join the military, and someone said like, oh, I can get you in. And it was one of those things where like at that moment, I was like, my brother would be so proud if I just said, you know what, screw it. I don't care how old I am. Like, if I can still do it, I'm going to do it. And I think that was honestly what pushed me, because it was a conversation that we had after 9/11. My brother at the time was not in school. He tried to sign me out. He's like, I swear if I was a Navy SEAL, like I'd go out and I'd be fighting this war. And I remember saying like, yeah, me too. Like, I'd be right beside you. And honestly, that was probably one of the proudest moments that I had after I graduated. And it was like one of those things where I'm like, man, like, I know you can see that. Like, I wish you were here for it, but it was like, I feel like that was him pushing me through the whole entire time.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Thank you for sharing that.
I know. I
What a
didn't know
nice
that.
note to
Yeah, I
end
was like,
on.
that's so crazy. I'm like, because it was crazy. I've never said that to anyone, but those were conversations that we had. And I remember him wanting to be Navy SEAL, which I thought was insane because what they do is nuts.
No,
But
it's crazy.
yeah.
I could never.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Yeah, no, of
Thank you
course.
Really
so
appreciate it.
much.
Thanks for being a part of growing this sibling community, this like grieving siblings community, because I mean, I think what we've seen through our research is there's just not enough support in this space. So we appreciate you sharing and being a part of the fam.
Yes.
No, of course. And I feel like what you guys are doing is so awesome, just because, like you said, there isn't enough of a community who have lost siblings that have other people to lean on in that aspect.
Right. And then even us, like for social media, we're always posting.
Yeah.
We try to keep up with it. And, we try to just do a very kind of what Elizabeth said earlier, like we do a very of different topics, but just to kind of bring it back to what our niche is like, it is about sibling loss, and we're still very young in our life, and we're, as Roseanne said, she said, at least we got to spend X amount of years with them. not
Mhm.
the years that we're not spending with them. And I
Yeah,
thought
count
that
the
was,
years we had, not the years we don't have.
yeah,
Right, right. Yeah, and that's 100% true. And I think a lot of people don't initially feel that way, but
it takes time.
through time, yeah, through time, it's just like, ugh, like you
Yeah.
said, some of those things that might have been annoying memories at the moment, you look back now and you're like, oh, what I would give to just be annoyed by you one more time.
Right.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and super grateful. And we'll be in touch, of course. And thank everyone. Well, we want to thank everyone for
We wanna
listening
thank everyone for
in.
listening.
Listening in, and thank you so much for just like, subscribe, share, follow. We're on Apple Podcasts,
Spotify.
YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. It's like we say it all the time, and
And we're like, did we forget one?
did we forget one? Because we're
everywhere,
always
find
like,
us.
yeah,
On all social platforms.
on all social platforms.
Like, follow, subscribe, and share
Share,
with somebody.
comment.
The point of this is for the, it to find the right community, and we could only do that by sharing.
That's right. And thank you so much, Nat.
Yeah, thank you for
Appreciate you.
having me.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.